Hello. The myth that I chose to discuss today is the myths about ADHD. This is an extremely important topic to me because, as the Dean of Students, over the years, there has been an enormous amount of students that have been diagnosed with ADHD over the years. I must admit that I have been guilty of one of the myths that they have about ADHD, and that's the myth that ADHD is a phantom type of disability. I do believe that in Chicago Public Schools, students have been overdiagnosed with ADHD, and that's been an issue. But after researching, I found it clear that ADHD, in fact, has been recognized as a disability by the courts in the United States Department of Education. One of the most common myths that my parents experience is that they don't want their children to be put onto the medication that's required for ADHD, which is Ritalin, because they feel as though it's similar to cocaine. In fact, this is not true at all. Ritalin has no side effects that will cause the patient to become addicted. It's not a habit-forming drug, and it will not lead to psychosis. I've met with many teachers as I provide professional development for teachers. One complaint that they have is a myth that I found as I did my research, debunking myths, is that ADHD is just being used as an excuse for students not to be held accountable for their actions. And this is a challenge for teachers, because if they don't understand that this is a myth, then their approach to how they teach their students will in turn be affected dramatically if they feel as though that their students are just being mischievous and their students are being manipulative. Then they actually won't take the time to provide the interventions and services that the students would need in order to be successful. The teachers won't make the accommodations that they'll need to make in order for the students that have been diagnosed with ADHD to be successful. This is really why I feel it is so important that neuroscience and our education goes hand in hand. Teachers have to have a better understanding of how the brain works in order for them to make the modifications for students who will need modifications to play on a level playing ground. If not, they'll just be setting their students up for failure. So there are studies out there that will recommend that neuroscience and education go hand in hand. For example, in 2007, by Pickering and Howard Jones, they asked 3 different sets of teachers information on how important they felt that the working brain is as far as their teaching activities. And what they found, that the majority of the teachers reported that neuroscience was important or either very important. So this is great information to kind of prove that educators do feel that neuroscience and education goes hand in hand. The Webster's Dictionary defines learning as a knowledge or skill acquired by an instructor, by instruction or study. And this is directly related to the brain. So therefore, teachers should be well educated on how the brain functions and what portions of the brain is responsible for memory and comprehension. This will only help them as they begin preparing lesson plans for their kids and individual plans for kids who have experienced things such as traumas or neglects. If the teachers understand the effects that these type of outside forces have on the brain, then they'll be better prepared to educate their students successfully. I believe neuroeducation is definitely a step into the right direction in terms of supporting our children socially and emotionally, and having staff, not only just teachers, but all staff who deal with children, understand how the brain functions and what different effects different things have on the brain will only accelerate our education process. So I'm a firm believer that neuroeducation is the way to go. And I'm a firm believer that understanding how our children learn will only help us to understand how to create lesson plans or help us to create individual education plans and behavior plans for our students so that we can ensure that we're providing the best supports and services for our kids so that they can be successful.